What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy. Want to wish you a very happy Tuesday, June the 10th, 2025. We made it to the double digits here in June. Before you know it, the month will be over. Not trying to fast forward time. I hope the summer's treating you right. But before you know it, it will be July. That will mean football is officially on the way because training camp for the Cowboys and the rest of the NFL, nobody cares about them, comes at the end of July. But right now we're in the middle of Dallas Cowboys minicamp, which means we have a lot of things to get to. Thankfully, we are live in the Bleacher Report app, as I am every single Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time coming this Dallas Cowboys season. I will also be live in the BR app following every Dallas Cowboys game. These shows are accessible on demand within the BR app as well. You can follow me right down below if that's how you're watching. You can also get them on demand on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. If you're on the BTV YouTube channel, salute. Great to see you. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Also, if you're on YouTube, I have my own YouTube channel now where I'm doing a bunch of different things as well. Nothing's changing at BTB, but the link in the description down below, as are the links to follow me on all levels of social media. Let's go ahead. Let's get into it. It is Tuesday. The Dallas Cowboys began their mandatory mini camp. All right, mandatory. That means everybody has to be there. You got to be there or else you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get fined. And we found across the NFL that there are some players who are willing to go the distance. Shout out, of course, to Disney in that respect. TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, both absent from their respective mandatory mini camps and therefore subject to fines. Why are they absent, RJ? Is it because they're is it truancy? They're truant or whatever? They're playing hooky. They're at Coney Island. No, that's not what's going on. They want new deals. And thankfully for the Dallas Cowboys, Micah Parsons is not doing that. However, the fact that these two players need deals is sort of an indication that we're going to be getting something of the pass rusher variety, something along the pass rusher market variety, I should say, in the coming months. So let's kind of go through what happened across the day. This was the first news that broke. Micah did pledge to be at Cowboys minicamp last week. Man of his word. He's there. This was the first thing. TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson chose not to show up. As you can see, the report from Adam Schefter. These are the fine amounts that they're subject to. These are veterans on the pass rusher market who want brand new deals. And who can blame them? Adam Schefter would go on to add that these two players obviously are first and second in the NFL over the last 2 years relative to sacks. We can debate sacks and blah, 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 pressures, whatever. I don't think any of us are taking Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt over Micah Parsons. That's not what this is about. What this is about is Micah might be the best edge rusher in the NFL. I think there's a legitimate argument for that. I don't think anybody believes otherwise. I don't think maybe you believe Myles Garrett's better. That would not be absurd. That would not be crazy. But Myles Garrett got a brand new deal this offseason. Remember the beginning of Super Bowl week? He was like, I want to be traded, blah, blah, blah. Well, money talks, and money got Myles Garrett to be cool. Remember, there was even the conversation with Micah and Myles, like, I might take less if you stay with, or if you go to the Cowboys, blah, blah, blah. Myles Garrett got paid. And the pass rusher market has been relatively chill since then because there hasn't been anything to force the issue. There hasn't been a mandatory minicamp where, the line could be pushed from one side or the other. In this case, it's being pushed by both TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson. I don't know how many times we have to explain this phenomenon and this philosophy to people. Waiting always costs more. Waiting generally costs more. I can't say the word always, but 99% of the time, waiting costs more. Myles Garrett got a 4-year deal, averaging $40 million per year, made him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. That deal came like in January, February, whatever it was. All right. That deal, that highest paid non-quarterback mark in the NFL, or highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL mark, that was already surpassed. It's already been surpassed by Jamar Chase. And lo and behold, Jamar Chase was the one receiver who the Cowboys got the CeeDee Lamb deal ahead of. Waiting always costs more. A reminder that the Cowboys could have paid Micah Parsons last offseason. They're well late. They're not just late because it's June. They're late because they could have taken care of this in all of 2024, and they chose not to. And now you got all these people in my mentions, all these wiseacres who are saying, well, RJ, the agents know this too. And Micah's agent, we all know his name. It's David Mulugeta. We don't have to be silly about this. Okay. David Mulugeta, any representation, right? I hear you people. You're like, well, they're just going to wait till these other deals happen. Why would they sign? This is why you don't wait. So we don't get to this situation. That's a fair question. I agree with you. But this is why when we told you back in January, get this done now, it was to avoid this question. This is why when we told you a year ago, last January, last February, March, April, May, all of last year, when we said get the Micah deal done, it's so that we would not be in this situation where the Myles Garrett deal happened, where the Trey Hendrickson, we obviously couldn't have foreseen Trey Hendrickson leading the NFL. And I mean, he was very good, don't get me wrong, but we couldn't have foreseen that. We couldn't have seen TJ Watt. And now, all of this is good news for David Mulugheta. All of this is good news for Micah Parsons, because if you and I are David and Micah, we're telling each other, hell yeah, let's let TJ Watt get paid. Let's let Trey Hendrickson get paid, because RJ in his Bleacher Report show on Tuesday, June 10th, him and the whole crowd, they agreed that I am a better player than them. And even if he's not a better player than him, welcome to the free market. Whoever is paid last of these three is going to get the most. That's the way this works. We know this. We've seen it. And you can spin the wheel with whichever position you prefer, whether it's quarterback, pass rusher, wide receiver, corner, left tackle. Those 5 positions, the money 5, whoever's next gets paid more than the last dude. That is the way that this works. You can fight it. You can moan about it. You can groan. You can complain. You can type in caps lock all you want. That's the way this thing goes. So, yeah, why would David Mulugheta or Micah Parsons sign the deal now before TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson get it done? There's one reason. It's because you make it worth their while. That's why you make it worth their while. You pay up at the beginning. You pay market rate. You make them the highest paid non-quarterback, the highest whatever the mark is for that specific player position at that point in time, the way the Browns did with Myles Garrett. And then you don't have to worry about it for a little bit. That's the way this goes. Do you think the Browns right now, today, on the day that TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson are holding out and the day that Micah might be holding in, we'll get to that in a second, do you think the Cleveland Browns are going, oh, shucks, we really messed up? No, the Browns are sitting there saying, this is awesome. We knew this was going to happen. When we paid Myles Garrett, we knew that eventually somebody else was going to come along and get paid, and it was going to make us feel even better about our deal. Yes, that's the way this works. I don't know how many times we have to go through this same conversation. I mentioned, though, Micah may be holding in. I don't want to call it that because we don't know his true intentions, but Micah was indeed present at Dallas Cowboys minicamp on Tuesday, as he said he would be, but he did not participate in any drills. This is a tweet from ESPN's Todd Archer. Micah Parsons was on the field, but did not take part in any drills. He did have a prolonged conversation with owner Jerry Jones for about 25 to 30 minutes. This is the photo of Micah and Jerry. Hard to tell what they're talking about. Micah said after the fact, by the way, in his session with the media, that they did not discuss the contract. Lots of reports from the grounds that this conversation lasted about 25, 30 minutes. I don't know. Maybe they were swapping Netflix recommendations. My wife and I just started The Pit on Max. Pretty good. Or one episode in, so maybe it was something like that. Who knows? But either way, look, Micah showing up is respectable, right? I actually would not have faulted him whatsoever for not showing up. So in that sense, I don't think it's like a big deal. If Micah wants to show up, cool. It's obviously better for team kumbaya camaraderie than if he didn't show up. We can all agree with that in a general sense. That being said, Micah showing up, James Cook showing up to the Buffalo Bills, Kirk Cousins showing up to the Atlanta Falcons. James Cook, I think I might be paraphrasing, or I am paraphrasing, had a line on I keep saying Monday, but on Tuesday, something along the lines of, yeah, I'm here because I like money, because nobody wants to get fined, right? We all understand these players want new deals. Maybe Cousins wants a new situation. You get my point. So Micah not showing up would accomplish what? Right? Like we all know that he wants a new deal. We all know he's going to get a new deal. So why not just do the deal now? In fact, again, and I wrote this in the article where I mentioned the holdouts that the TJ Watt and that Trey Hendrickson were in the middle of. I don't think there's any person among us, whoever you are, whether you're watching in Bleacher Report, whether you're watching on YouTube, whoever you are, if you're watching this, if this has reached you, I don't think there's a single person out there who believes that Micah Parsons is not going to be playing for the Dallas Cowboys in 2025, 2026, 2027, etc. You get the vibe here. We all believe that Micah is going to be playing for this team for the foreseeable future. So that means we all agree that a deal is inevitable. We all agree with that, right? I would assume that Micah agrees with that. I would assume that the Cowboys agree with that, right? There's not a single person who's not in lockstep with this thought process so far, right? So if that's the case, if we all know it, if we all understand it, if we all believe it to be inevitable, then why wait? What good comes from it? And this isn't a like, oh, we're antsy, just get it done. No, now it's a situation where you have 2 other pass rushers on the market in a theoretical sense, who could get paid, who could drive the price up. And you may believe, well, Micah's going to get paid more than them anyway. You're probably right. I agree with you. But why leave it to chance? Why leave it in someone else's hands? Why not just be proactive and get something done so that this doesn't have to be a thing? You don't have to have everybody, getting on the plane to go to Oxnard and wondering, even though Micah said he wasn't going to hold out from training camp, blah, blah. You just eliminate all of that trash and all of that drama, all of that talk, and you just show up and play football. What a novel concept. That would be kind of cool if the Dallas Cowboys actually went through with that. But I digress. All right. Let's get to some very, very, very important discussion. I mean, this is of critical importance. All right. You're not going to believe how important this is. Look, it's my job to tell you things about the Dallas Cowboys, which is why I'm doing this. But I find things like this to be interesting. But that being said, we touched on this last week. But if you look, this is a photo the Cowboys tweeted out on Tuesday. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And there we go. So the reason this photo is important, and I'm using that word in jest, but notable, significant, is this is a media photo. We talked about this last week, blah, blah, when the Cowboys players showed up to do their media things, etc. And this is a photo the Cowboys tweet out. They also tweeted out George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. You get the picture. No pun intended. That being said, the reason it's significant for the third time is because Dak Prescott is not wearing two sleeves. He's wearing kind of a shooter sleeve on his right arm and a standard sleeve on his left. Dak Prescott has worn sleeves since 2018. That's kind of been his thing. His whole thing was that he sweats a lot and he wears the sleeves, etc. So it's been a long time. I mean, and it's kind of how you know what images people are using of Dak. If there's a sleeveless photo of Dak in like a promo or something like that, it's from either his rookie year or 2017. But my point to you is Dak Prescott has worn sleeves for the significant majority of his career. And I'm not telling you like, watch out, he's not wearing sleeves, so like he's winning the Super Bowl this year. That's not my point. I'm just updating you with it. My point is I don't think that Dak would be doing this in these promo materials unless this is what he was going to be playing with throughout the season. So Dak has made a change. The whole point of June is to overreact to silly little things. And so Dak has made a change. That was a photo shoot last week, though, as mentioned. This was on Tuesday. This was a video, so I had to pause it for you. But this is Dak trotting out to the practice field. Same configuration of sleeves, kind of the shooter sleeve, not quite a shooter sleeve, but kind of, normal sleeve, I guess, on his right arm with the wristband. Obviously, he's done the wristbands for forever, and the normal sleeve on his left arm. So this does appear to be what he's rocking with. So I don't know exactly what led to the change. Again, we can joke about how silly it is, but it seemingly would be something related to, giving him more, freedom or whatever, for more mobility. He obviously feels that he's more comfortable this way. I would like to hear a discussion on, this sleeve configuration and why Dak thinks it's good. It might just be something where it's like, oh, I was getting hot, or whatever. So, just, put it away in your mental Rolodex, the sleeve update on Dak Prescott. But Dak trotted out to the practice field. The Cowboys were at work. Again, mandatory minicamp beginning on Tuesday. Let's look at some notes. Shout out to the members of the local media who were there, who provide this. Follow them on social media. Nick Harris is phenomenal. Good friend. Everybody check out Nick. He's the man. So these are Nick's notes from day one. Let's read through them and then kind of break them down a little bit here. But Nick's notes from day one of Dallas Cowboys minicamp. First one, wide receiver George Pickens hauled in 5 Cinco receptions during the team period on a variety of routes. One comeback route completion, against Mukwamu was the standout. Love seeing this. I did a predictions piece of what we would get from minicamp and as far as headlines, and George Pickens continuing to stand out was one of them. Not trying to pat myself on the back, but anyway. Number 2 from Nick Harris. Overall, a strong day for quarterback Dak Prescott. That's new sleeve configuration Dak Prescott to you, people. He went 17 for 19 passing in team periods and completed more balls along the sideline than we've seen today. Very cool. Joe Milton went 8 for 8. So that's a combined 25 for 27 between QBs 1 and 2 people. No offense to Will Grier, including 3 receptions to wide receiver Jalen Cropper, who continues to find ways to get open in the offseason setting. I want to come back to this one. Offensive lineman Rob Jones left practice early with a clear grimace on his face. Not great. All the best to Rob. Another pass breakup registered for cornerback Kaiir Elam today. DBs can't be super physical in these settings. Good context from Nick, but he still finds a way to get his hands on the ball. We'll come back to this one as well. More reps finally from Nick with the ones for tight end Brevin Spann-Ford. He's been one of the consistent standouts in media availabilities. Okay, so let's talk about this. First of all, the Pickens thing is cool, but we're going to move on from that. The quarterback statistical thing is cool. not really important for the purposes of our discussion. Nick is great, though. Thank you for the note, Nick. But the Jalen Cropper thing. All right. If I asked you today, right now, this exact moment in time, you get 6 wide receivers on the Dallas Cowboys roster. Who are they? All right, let's do it. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert, easy 3. Kevontae Turpin, easy 4, right? We're taking Ryan Flournoy, that's 5. Okay. Who's your 6th? Who's the 6th? I mean, it's tough, right? Like, I mean, is it Jalen Cropper? Like, because that's the spot that somebody's going to have to jump up and steal. That's the spot because Jalen Brooks is an option, right? Jalen Brooks has kind of hung around for a little bit now. This is the spot. Can Jalen Cropper take that 6th spot? That's one of the questions that we're going to kind of have, obviously, at the beginning of camp. And so, because shout out to Brian Martin, one of our staffers at Blogging the Boys. I've known Brian for years, kind of ever since I started blogging. But Brian and I worked on something a long time ago, and he kind of does it every year now. And it's determining how many roster spots are truly available, right? There's not 53 spots available on the Cowboys' final roster. We all understand that. So it ultimately kind of boils down to there's like 8 to 12 spots that are truly kind of available. And one of them is wide receiver 6. Is it going to be Jalen Cropper? Is it going to be Jalen Brooks? Is somebody else going to pop up? Is there going to be a rookie UDFA, right? You just never know with that 6th wide receiver spot. It was complicated a little bit, obviously, by the trade for George Pickens. I didn't even mention, obviously, no offense to him off the top of my head, Jonathan Mingo. I mean, and Brian actually wrote an article that Jonathan Mingo's, future is not guaranteed. So, if we presume that Jonathan Mingo is making the team, my point to you is that these are the moments that those things kind of start to live in the back of your head when they set up camp in the back of your head. When we're deep into August and it's like, man, who's that 6th wide receiver? It's Jalen Cropper's been popping, for a while now. That's the point of this note. It's tough about Rob Jones, but the note from Nick about Kaiir Elam, I wrote last week at Blogging the Boys that of all the trades that the Cowboys made, the one that has the chance to pay the highest return on investment is clearly George Pickens, but acknowledging that Pickens is in his own territory in that sense, we've got the Kenneth Murray trade, we've got the Kaiir Elam trade, and we've got the Joe Milton trade, right? These are the trades the Cowboys made for veteran help, veteran talent, whatever. I think there's an argument to be made that the most impactful of them, potentially from a return on investment standpoint, is going to be Kaiir Elam. And I think there's an argument to be made that George Pickens is probably going to be the most influential offseason acquisition as a whole. And I'm including the draft class in that conversation and free agency. I think there's an argument potentially to be made, or a hindsight argument to be made, that Kaiir Elam could wind up being number 2, because we don't know exactly what this cornerback group is going to yield. We don't know how dependable they're going to be. Trayvon Diggs was present and accounted for mandatory minicamp. Great to see, but how dependable is he going to be? Is he going to start the season on the PUP list? Is Savon Ravel going to start the season on the PUP list? What's Deron Bland going to be like? I think, we've been talking about this. I've been talking about this. If you follow what I do and subscribe to the channel and subscribe to my channel, all this stuff, that's a real boom or bust situation and position and room for the team. And if Kaiir Elam can kind of lock something into place and be some point of dependability, then man, that would come a long way, or go a long way, I should say. So that's really nice to see. It's only June 10th, but still nice to see. Finally, Brevin Spann-Ford. Again, the note from Nick here is more reps with the ones for Brevin Spann-Ford. So again, we've got the tight end position pretty set, but the reason I bring this up is Jake Ferguson's in a contract year. Luke Schoonmaker is now in year 3 as a 2nd-round pick, and not, Brian Schottenheimer's 2nd-round pick. And to that point, Brevin Spann-Ford, not even, Brian Schottenheimer's UDFA. But is he someone who can, make a mark, make an impact, kind of carve out, 2 or 3 targets a game? Maybe. I mean, people forget that it's always important to track the money that the UDFAs get, because it shows you the level of investment, the level of would-be commitment that teams are willing to make to these players. And last year, Brevin Spann-Ford got a nice, chunk of change, a nice piece of coin from the Cowboys, which signified from the moment that information came out last year, you knew that Brevin Spann-Ford was going to make the 53-man roster. So the Cowboys have really liked him for a long time, to the point that they're giving him reps with the ones. So just, file that away. I'm not saying go stash him on your dynasty team or anything like that, but file that away for another rainy day. So, okay, shout out to Nick. Let's move on. We have 2 other sets of notes to get to. Next one comes to us courtesy of Kyle Yeomans from DallasCowboys.com. Kyle's the man. Everybody go follow Kyle on social. He's great. So these are Kyle's notes, and both Nick and Kyle and Todd Archer, whose notes we're going to get to in a second, do a great job of providing these notes for things like this, not just mini camps, but training camps as well. So again, follow them. I can't recommend them enough. They're all fantastic. But these are from Kyle. Dak and Pickens connection. I'm reading these fully for the first time, fleshing them out with you. I wanted to save it. Wanted you and I to do it together. But Dak and Pickens connection was active. Yeah, we got that, Kyle. Thanks to Nick. You're the best though. Most action took place underneath, making it tough on DBs who can't be physical yet, which is great. And to also compartmentalize and contextualize, knowing that Kyrie of them was flashing. Milton showed more accuracy, 10 for 10 in team period. We had the 8 for 8 note from Nick. So now we got some mathematical debate going on here. Had incredible deep throw to Cropper. There's Jalen Cropper popping again. Mingo, who I forgot for a second, shout out to me, was the second most targeted wide receiver behind Pickens. Caught all of his targets, including one catch down the right sideline. So again, 6 wide receivers: CeeDee, Pickens, Tolbert, Mingo, Cavante. I'm forgetting someone already. It's tough. I mean, like it's going to be tough. Elam and Sanborn, that's Jack Sanborn, the free agent signing out of Chicago. That's Matt Eberflus's guy. Both with a stout PBU in coverage. Otherwise, tough day on the DBs. Nice to see Jack Sanborn popping. We've been talking so much. I talked about this actually with John Owning in a conversation that drops on Wednesday on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. Everybody be on the lookout for that. 7 a.m. Central's when that will hit. Great conversation with John. We obviously talked about how Matt Eberflus is the linebacker whisperer and who's going to be the guy. We talked a little bit about how Maris Liufau could be the primary beneficiary, but it's worth noting that when Dan Quinn became the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, he brought a couple of Falcons, right? Players who played for him with the Falcons: DeMonte Kazee, Keanu Neal, right? We thought about a lot of different players who maybe could be joining him as well. And we saw other connections. He didn't play for him with the Falcons, but Dante Fowler, who's back with the Cowboys, played for him with the Florida Gators, right? It's a great day to be a Florida Gator. And that being said, Jack Sanborn was kind of the lone. He is the lone dude who followed Matt Eberflus from Chicago. So that kind of goes to the Brevin Spann thing, right? Like, what dots can we connect? What commitments, what investments, what tea leaves can we read to tell us what this coaching staff may or may not like or prefer or prioritize, whatever. That being said, the Jack Sanborn thing is there. And there's also the fact that there's just a lot of opportunity at linebacker in general, because, we played the which 6 receiver game are you, carrying? Which 6 receivers are you carrying game? There we go. Who are the linebackers you really trust outside of DeMarvion Overshown, obviously, and we all know the injury situation. I mean, Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, Damone Clark, Maris Liufau, there's a lot of potential, but we'll see. But it's nice to see Jack Sanborn having a nice day. Thank you, Kyle, for the notes. All right, let's get to Todd Archer, as we mentioned him already. Todd is fantastic, one of the best members of the local beat. Minicamp observations from Tuesday. Micah Parsons came to the rescue early in workout when one of the pop-up tents covering the loudspeakers was blown away. Wow, how loud were these speakers? Parsons helped wrangle the tent with some other staffers. Awesome. All right. Kyrie Elam dropped an interception. Not great. Off a seam ball from Dak Prescott to Cavante Turpin, but Prescott had a free play with a defender jumping offside. Still, Elam did some push-ups as a penalty. Love to see that. Elam has had a good offseason. Love to see that. Israel Mukwamu worked as an outside corner for what looked like the entire practice, with Deron Bland working the slot. All right, let's pause right here, because it does seem, let me back up even further. Prior to the 2023 season, all right, let's rewind the clock a little bit here, and let me put your mind in the proper perspective here. Trayvon Diggs, alpha, awesome, super amazing. We all know that. Great. In fact, recently paid. That was a great time, 2022. And Stephon Gilmore had been acquired via trade. So we were all pumped, right? We were all, super giddy at the thought of Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore on the outside, and Deron Bland, who had led the team in interceptions as a rookie with 5, working in the slot. We were pumped. In fact, we were like, oh, Jordan Lewis, get away from here. We don't even need you anymore, right? Like, think about how quickly times change. Trayvon Diggs gets hurt. Right? Trayvon Diggs gets hurt, and the Cowboys have to figure something out. Oh, no, what are we going to do? And they bump Deron Bland outside. Jordan Lewis goes back to nickel, and they're pretty good, and they figure it out. Stephon Gilmore, et cetera, et cetera. We never got to see Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore fully. Deron Bland has the amazing season. Whatever. Stephon Gilmore leaves last year, plays for the Vikings. We all know everything. Blah, blah. My point is, the vision originally for Deron Bland, as far as the Cowboys were concerned, was to play him in nickel. He only moved outside because of the injury to Trayvon Diggs. Now, he had the amazing year, the pick sixes, all that stuff, but the vision was for him to play outside. So I say that to put this back up on your screen, and let's read it again word for word. Izzy Mukuamu worked as an outside corner for what looked like the entire practice with Deron Bland working in the slot. Hustle is mandatory under Matt Eberflus. Ninth-year defensive lineman Solomon Thomas sprinted 25 yards to chase down a wide receiver. That's cool about Solomon Thomas. But I don't want to read too much into things. This is not me making a mountain out of a molehill or anything like that. But why is Izzy Mukuamu commanding outside corner, reps in practice if Deron Bland is there? The only logical answer would be that the vision, the goal, the plan, the ideal plan is for Deron Bland to play in slot. So we can, theorize that the ideal nickel starting corner group for the Cowboys is probably Trayvon Diggs and Kaiir Elam on the outside and Deron Bland playing nickel. That might not be breaking news to you, but these things, again, we're connecting dots, we're locking stuff into place, we're taking, the puzzle pieces, like, oh, I think this is a bit of the sky, and you put it to the corner where it's, oh, and I think this is, a piece of the moon, and you put it on this side where the moon is. We're putting this puzzle together. Let's keep going. We know Kevontae Turpin is the returner, but Jalen Tolbert took some turns returning some punts as well. Don't remember him doing much of that in his first year. This was the note about Rob Jones walking off the practice as well. Nick Harris said he clearly had a grimace, but Todd Archer did note that it's unclear as to why. Final note from Todd: safety Malik Hooker was back at practice after back spasms took him out last week. NFL officials worked Tuesday's practice with head ref, I think that's head ref, Brad Allen. Wednesday is full practice, followed by a walkthrough Thursday. Okay, so we'll get some more bits of information to chew on Wednesday, and we'll discuss them here on the show on Thursday, and I'll discuss them on social media as well. You know how to follow all that good stuff. But all of this, I think, is pretty positive and pretty, legit and pretty exciting. As positive and legit as exciting as things can be on June 10th. We all understand that context. But that being said, this team, this organization has one hurdle left, one big thing left to do. Because look, I can get excited, and I will. I am excited about the idea of Deron Bland playing a nickel where he was, kind of theorized they're going to be successful, about Jonathan Mingo being successful, about Jack Sanborn having some moments, about Brevin Spann-Ford, right? Like, we understand the top layer things, the George Pickens level things, right? But now we're starting to get a little bit deeper and dive in and bite into these things. Awesome. I will do that. I can get pumped about this, and I think all of us can. But you got to take care of the Micah deal. There's no reason, no earthly reason to wait. We've proven this time after time after time after time. And there's no reason to wait if you're uncertain, right? Like even if you're like, I don't know if we want this guy around long term, pay him anyway. Like, do the deal, and you'll still come out ahead. Even if you want to move on, right? You'll have that escapability sooner rather than later. But this isn't even that kind of case. This is a case where you are certain beyond a shadow of a doubt, 1,000,000, 1,000, 100% that you are going to pay Micah Parsons. It's just a matter of when you have the motivation to do so. Here, now, this is the time. And when you take care of this, like I said, we'll get pumped about Jack Sanborn. We'll get pumped about Brevin Spann-Ford. We'll get pumped about Deron Bland working a nickel. And I don't say this like these are low-level ho-hum things. Those are cool, interesting things. But just take care of this. This is the last cloud hanging above, right? This is the last dark cloud, just this cloud of drama. We don't need it. Nobody wants it. Nobody enjoys this. There's not a single person out there who is a fan of the way this is going. And you do this, and all of a sudden, all this other stuff seems even cooler. So that's what we're, kind of geared towards. So, all right. Anything else? Anybody have anything else they want to get off their chest? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Hopefully we get some more kind of interesting things on Wednesday. Maybe some more, justification or corroboration that Dak Prescott's wearing the short sleeve. Maybe we'll get some answers, some information, some intel on this. I will say it's awesome as someone to remind you all again who was against the George Pickens trade. And I only say that so that you can keep me honest. I'm happy about it now. We've moved on everything, but it's awesome to see continued positive reports there. I mean, that obviously, and this is why a lot of people were initially excited about the trade, has the potential to really change this team. I mean, in a flash. And so that is super exciting. Nems 585 with the question as we close: how much should they pay Micah and what term? I would say, Myles Garrett got a 4-year extension worth $40 million per year. You're going to have to top that. I mean, that's the starting point, right? That clearly becomes a starting point. And like I said, it's possible that one of TJ Watt or Trey Hendrickson comes in north of that because their players or their representation gets that deal for them. And that would complicate matters even more. That would stir the pot. That would stir the waters. That would disrupt the water. So accept that you're going to have to pay more than anyone has ever paid. That's market rate. That's the way this thing goes. And the moment you accept it, the moment you do it, then it's done. And then guess what? If you get the Micah deal done tomorrow or whatever, then when TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson get their deals, you'll feel great. That's the way this goes. And it's gone forever and ever and ever and ever. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on social media. If you are on YouTube, go subscribe, please, to my YouTube channel. It's linked down in the description below. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. I hope you have an amazing Wednesday. The interview with John Owning dropping on the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. Then I had an interview with Joe Theismann that dropped on my YouTube channel today. Lots of stuff going on. I agree with you, NEMS 585. Get it done. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. And let's go ahead and get out of here. We will see you next time.